Hello, everyone. I just wanted to weigh in on the latest YouTube incident. This one is taking place between Tariq Nasheed and Cythia G. I'm going to address this from an unconditional viewpoint and address it in terms of what can we as a community take from what happened. Now, I was going to cover what happened and how it got to this point. But there's so many videos on that. I don't want to add my own opinion because people have their own ideas of what they think happened. And the reason why I say what they think happened is because when I read what they say happened, I see a lot of facts being left out. So they're describing, this is a good example of people living through filters, seeing things through filters. When you are looking through filters, you don't look at the whole picture. You look at the part of the picture that supports the position you want to come from. So it is what it is. What I'm going to cover is what are some takeaways? I'm looking for the purpose and the good of this situation. Now, one of the things that this incident can teach us is it can allow us to step back and say, okay, clearly they have their differences of opinion. What are some things that each of these people are doing that benefits the Black community? I'll cover that because when you focus on what you want, then that's what you create. If you focus on the conflict, you're just going to create more of that. We already have enough conflict in the community, and we don't allow ourselves to grow from the conflict. What we do from that conflict is we allow it to tear each other down and to keep us where we're at. And I'm going to go over another video on why that is, why we respond the way that we respond, and the programming that we have gone through from slavery times, Jim Crow on up. I'm going to cover that at an energetic level and a overall systemic level as opposed to a psychological level, because that's been done by other people. So moving forward, what can we get from this? What we can get from this is the ability to look at things objectively, the ability to look at someone, understand you might not agree 100% with that person, and focus on what you do agree with from both sides. Okay, now we'll start with Tariq. Okay, I first became aware of systematic white supremacy as it pertains to it as a system. I stumbled along across some of his videos, so that's where I first learned that. So one of the things that I feel Tariq provides the community is a base level understanding of systematic white supremacy and what it is. Okay, base level understanding, kind of like an open your eyes to what it is. I feel he adds that to the community for people who are just kind of coming to themselves and coming out of the confusion, and they know that something is a little off. You know, you can, with this Hidden Colors films, I feel that they give a good education background in certain regards. to beginning to open up your eyes. And so those are film series I'll promote to other people in terms of making it, using it as a tool to help people wake up. I believe that those film series and also 1804 provide value. So whether or not I agree with him on this or that, that is something that I can focus on that provides value. Something else that I can say he provides value to the community is calling out different aspects of systematic white supremacy, and doing that in an open format, doing that in a way that is not fear-based in terms of I'm afraid to do this because of what people will say. So he calls it out and he takes the hits in regards to white supremacists not liking what he says. So he demonstrates not being afraid of that, because there are a lot of people that are afraid. So that is another thing that I feel he provides the community. Okay, so let's focus on those things. And it's about understanding that everyone has something to offer and build upon if you allow that to happen, if you focus on that. Because we are all a collective. We are all affected by what we feel, think, say, and believe about each other, of ourselves. We all put that out. Again, this is from an energetic perspective. So we all put that out into the ether, and we all feel that. So I'm just going to focus on what is beneficial to the community. So now I covered Tariq. Now let's cover Cythia G. Okay. What she focuses, or a benefit she gives to the community, all right, is supporting people in being accountable and responsible for what they want. All right. That's a huge thing, because if we truly want something, we have to be willing to look at ourselves and take accountability and responsibility for what we are doing to create what we are currently experiencing. Because if we don't do that, then we will never, ever change. It can't happen. It's not going to happen. Okay? So she brings her psychology background into what we need to do as a people. What are we willing to do as a people? What we must do as a people to have what we say we want. So if we say we want to be free from systematic white supremacy, and we're not willing to change anything, then we have to be honest with ourselves and say, you know what, it would be kind of nice, but right now where I am, I just really don't want to do what it takes to really have that, because maybe I'm afraid. I'm afraid of, because I don't know. I know this is the devil. I do know. I feel like I know how to handle this. If I change it and do something else, then I don't think I'll know how to handle that. And it's just admit it. Just admit it. Okay? Be honest about it, because in that honesty, solutions can come, inspiration can come, strength can come in that honesty. But if you never allow yourself to get to that honesty, it can't come. It won't come. So that's one thing I feel that she brings to the community is, what is it that you want? And are you willing to do what it takes to have what you want? Now, some people may agree or disagree on what she says. However, if you disagree on what she says, and what you agree with has been the same thing that's been done over and over and over since civil rights, then maybe you should take a step back and say, okay, what I'm disagreeing with her is she's mentioning something different, something that we have never done before. And what I think is going to work is something that we've continued to do over and over again. So then you got to ask yourself, are we better off? Has or what you think is the answer, has that made a difference? Has that gotten us out of systematic white supremacy? And if it hasn't, then if you don't agree with her, come up with a different answer. Don't come up with something that we've always been doing. Okay. So that's one thing that she brings to the community. Another thing she brings is pointing out our hypocrisy, pointing out where we do things that are double standards, where we do things that don't allow us to see the truth, that keep us in illusion. Okay, and there is a lot of that. There's a lot of that double standards that keep us in illusion. And she's mentioned that. I'm not going to mention that here. If you want to talk about it in the comments section, we can do that. That's fine. However, again, and I'm sharing this from an energetic viewpoint, because when you look at it from an energetic viewpoint, you don't get drawn into the drama. You don't get insulted. You don't take things personally. You're just looking at things based on fact and what works, what works energetically, what doesn't work energetically. So that's another thing, is we as a community need to be very clear and truthful about what we do, how we do it, how we see each other. Because again, you cannot change anything from an illusion. It's not going to work. And we do love to keep ourselves in illusion. We really do. And I want to share how badly, or let me use a different word, how severely and deeply we want to keep ourselves in illusion. And that would be an example of civil rights. Okay, civil rights era, it ended up being us wanting to be integrated and be around white people. Now, the illusion that we had to keep ourselves in order to insist on that and push on that, and I'm going to talk about that in another video, because there's a whole interesting dynamic with that in terms of the energy around it, surrounding it, the energetics surrounding it, is we had to forget over 350 years of consistent abusive behavior toward us from white people. We had to just stick our heads in the sand with that and say, you know what? They've demonstrated for 350 years how they feel about us. They're demonstrating now as we're going on these marches how they feel about us, and it hasn't changed. But we're going to pretend that that doesn't exist, and we want to live around them. We want to patronize their businesses. We want to do these things because we think because they're white, it's better. But we're going to ignore all of that behavior and pretend that's not going to have any effect on how they treat us when we patronize their businesses. That is being so in illusion. It's incredible. it's I don't know. I just, when you sit back and think about it, it's like, what were you thinking? Why would you think that it could end up in anything other than disastrous? Really? I mean, think about it. So, and she's pointing out this complete mental dysfunction that we do, and we do have it, because you have to have an immense mental dysfunction to think that you would be treated well, you would have any kind of functional relationship with people that have shown you they want to do nothing but abuse you. on a mass scale, okay, on average, on a typical behavior, okay. So that's that, and I haven't really seen anybody point it out in that way before, in a way that was like, get you to step back and go, wow, I didn't look at it that way before. I didn't see it that way before. Because if we don't see our own misperceptions, our own dysfunction, our own beliefs that are, because we are holding ourselves down, we're holding ourselves back, we're holding ourselves in the position that white supremacy wants us to be in. We are holding ourselves in that position. We're keeping ourselves there. Okay, do they have an effect on our lives and everything? Yes, they do. However, we're allowing them to have full effect on our lives. So as long as we don't take accountability and responsibility for that, as long as we don't own up to our own mental dysfunction that we have, that influences our actions, that keep us where we are, we can't change anything. It's not going to change. So she brings that to the table. Okay. She also, there's also one other thing I want to share about with Tariq, what he brings to the table. Another thing I want to share with Cythia, what she could bring to the table, if all the, everybody wasn't getting all, if people weren't getting so personal about everything. Just step back and look at things and take what makes sense to you, and then just ignore the rest. So another thing that Tariq brings to the table is running a business, is how to make paper. I guess that's the term. How to make paper, how to hustle. Okay, he's an example of that. I don't believe that there's anything wrong with the way that he's making money or hustling. He's showing you. I believe he's demonstrating what to do, what you can do, to be able to make money. And I believe if he's created a product and he's selling it at a fair price, there's nothing wrong with that. And if that product has value and we see that it has value, then there's nothing wrong with him wanting compensation for that. All right, so and if we don't feel that it has value, then we just don't buy it. But that's what it is. Nobody's putting a gun to our head to buy it. So we need to allow, or be more open, or be less judgmental about certain things, in terms of, if he's deliberately misleading about what that product is, or if he's selling something and you're buying it and he never delivers it, okay, and he's fraudulent about that business activity, that's another thing. But however, I'm just hearing, I haven't heard him create fraudulent activities. I heard him provide informational products that people purchase. Now, whether or not you agree with that information in the informational product, that's another story. He's serving a market. What he's an example of is finding a hungry market and serving it. So whether or not you believe or agree or respect the market he's serving, step back and just look at the mechanics of what he's doing and how he's doing it. Because I think, he can, if you do that, you can learn something from him. So getting back on another thing with Cythia G, what she provides to the community. And that is how to face when systematic white supremacy is in your face. What you can do. Okay, she's actually living things out she's actually going after businesses that have treated her wrongly. And so if people want more about that, to hear more, they can begin asking her questions and say, hey, can you do a Patreon on this? All right. But I think she's a very good example of that, and an example of not taking crap from anybody, okay, in terms of systematic white supremacy. She's a very good example of how to stand up without, one, getting yourself killed per se, and two, how to do it and do it in a way that if it causes you harm, if their behavior causes you harm, you're gonna hold them accountable and responsible. So she's a good example of how to hold systematic white supremacy accountable and responsible. Because I don't see anybody doing it publicly like she's doing it. So she can provide that benefit to the Black community. Okay? So again, whether or not you agree or disagree with other things, I'm just focusing on what they do provide. And we have a tendency of, because we don't like one thing or another about another Black person, and this is stemming from the self-hate, because we expect somebody to be completely perfect, and they're not. They're not going to be. All right? Then we just dismiss everything. We don't know how to separate the wheat and the chaff. Okay? We don't know how to separate those, and I probably mispronounced it, whatever. But the wheat from the husk. Okay, we don't know how to separate that. So we end up without bread because we have no wheat, because we've thrown it all away. So I wanted to discuss something a little bit different on just what are some takeaways, and the biggest takeaway is our ability. Let's use this situation as the ability to step back, step out of our feelings, okay? Step out of our perceptions of what we think this person is doing to that person and that person is doing to this person, and then focus on what benefit are they providing to the community, because they each are providing something in their own way, all right? And focus on that. I'd love to hear your comment. And again, focus on what you think they are providing the community without dissing the other person, because like I said, they both were providing something. Okay, so I'd love to hear your comments. Like, comment, subscribe, and share what you think they are providing, and we can have a discussion on that. So thank you again, and I will see you in the next video.